Welcome to another episode of the 1 Year No Beer podcast. I am your host today, Rory Fairbairns. Super excited today to be joined by one of our fantastic members, been through an incredible journey and joined us on the Complete Control program. We're going to hear a bit more from Gav. We're going to hear a bit more about his past experience and why he chose to come on Complete Control and, of course, where we are today. So, without further ado, welcome to the show, Gav.
Thank you very much, Roo. It's really exciting to be here. And in true Australian style, I will, of course, call you by your nickname because in Australia, we always either shorten or lengthen everything. And Roo just rolls off the tongue much more easily. Yeah. And so I'm Gav. I'm 44 years old. I'm an entrepreneur. I co-own an events business here. I live in Sydney, Australia, in the beautiful northern beaches. I have a 14-year-old daughter and a wife who I have been with for 24 years.
Wow, we met when you?
Yeah, when we were 20. We've been through some stuff together. Let me tell you.
A year of marriage.
Kind of grew up together. Yes, indeed.
Good for you. Yeah, we'll touch on what the secret is to 24 years of marriage later.
Oh gosh, so.
Thanks for coming on the show. And do you want to give us a bit of background? You know, you mentioned about being an entrepreneur, but growing up in Australia. Yeah, perhaps sow the seed of your relationship with alcohol with a bit of background.
Yeah, sure. So Australia, much like the UK, England, Ireland, Scotland, we have a very big drinking culture here. You know, as soon as I turned 18, I was off and drinking, and binge drinking has always been a big part of, you know, partying and connecting. And, you know, and so, yeah, I think when I was 18 to sort of 20-ish, you know, it was not really a big deal. And then I got into clubbing and, you know, everyone was kind of doing that sort of thing. And it was always something that I did sort of outside of the house. And, you know, when my daughter came along, I remember it sort of moving from being an outside of the house activity. There was always the connection with other people and, you know, at the pub or at various functions and whatnot. But then I started to drink more at home. And then I started my own business 10 years ago. And, and then it became something that I would never really drink during the week. But, you know, sort of come Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I found myself drinking less and less with other people and sort of drinking more and more by myself. And then, you know, I sort of got to that like age of about 35 and I was thinking to myself, like, I think it's time to sort of slow this down. You know, I'm not a spring chicken anymore. I need to really start to, you know, be a bit more mindful of my health. And then I thought, okay, well, that's easy. I'll just sort of, you know, cut it back. And I found that I couldn't. And, you know, it wasn't, you know, and I was never an alcoholic. But it was, you know, it sort of got to a point, I'd say, when I really started to think, okay, I need to stop. I went and saw the GP and I got some blood work done, and she said that my liver enzymes were too high, and I'm like, okay, that's not good. And she said, I want you to take a break from drinking. It was the first time I'd ever actually taken a break from drinking, and I think the first break I took was probably 50 days, and then I went back, the blood work done, then it was good, and then I sort of got back into my old sort of pattern again. And I was like, okay, that's annoying, but, you know, and then I sort of just didn't really think about it too much. And then I discovered 1 year no beer during this sort of 10-year period as well. I think I heard you on a podcast, Ru, and I was like, that sounds really cool. I'd like to sort of get into that. And I think the first thing I did was a 28-day challenge, I think it was.
Yeah.
And then, so I did that. And then lo and behold, I sort of got back into the same old pattern again. And then I did a 90-day challenge. And lo and behold, guess what happened? I sort of fell back into the old recurring pattern. And then
well, I just want to say that I'm sorry for that. And I say that because I genuinely, you know, although I'm extremely proud of having created these challenges, extremely proud of the work that we've done, I would say that a huge proportion of people like you go back to similar types of drinking. And this is something that, I'm focused on with all of my energy, all of my effort now, and the resources of OYNB is how do we help people change in a more significant way for good, and really, really go at that. Before you carry on just onto the next bit, I just want to touch back into something you said powerful there, which was, you were trying to cut it back, but you couldn't. You said you couldn't. So what did that look like for you? Where was the drinking at the moment, and why did you feel like you couldn't?
I knew it was bad for my health. Like I could just tell. Like I wasn't quite as clear. I didn't have quite as much energy, and my skin was particularly bad. It would get red and blotchy and very sort of dry. And
Joe, today, I mean, you are looking as handsome as I've ever seen you. So
thank you, sir. It's very kind of you. But yeah, it was my skin wasn't great, and then when I realized, I was waking up. I think the worst sort of time for me before I discovered complete control. So, sorry, I'll back up a sec. So I actually tried a number of things during that period to sort of, get it back to a level that I felt like it was I was comfortable with. And that was because I always felt like drinking was sort of a bit of an Achilles heel for me. Like I would miss training sessions sometimes, and I wasn't quite as sharp or energetic as it could be sometimes, and I tried psychology, I tried psychotherapy, I went on a 4-day Tony Robbins firewalk thing. I read books, podcasts, all that kind of stuff.
So you were really seeking back then. You were really seeking.
I was.
But you knew what alcohol was the thing, or you were just like, there's something going on in my life which I don't feel great about and I'm trying to make an improvement, or you knew alcohol was the thing?
For me, I felt for a long time that alcohol was holding me back from being the best version of myself I could be. Yeah. It is that simple, and it was, and it wasn't like I was drinking during the week at work. Like that was like a off, and then like come the weekend it was on, and it was just this pattern, this habit that I really got into, and it didn't really seem to matter what I did. I would have a break and then I'd get right back into it. So I knew there was something that was making me sort of do it. And, I didn't want to sort of say, hey, this is a genetic thing. Because for me personally, I felt like, sure, that might have some play in there. But, I think that for me, I felt like, well, that's probably a little bit of a cop out. There's got to be a way, and for me, it was more around, I really wanted to have control. And that was sort of the key word. And it was certainly, holding me back. So all these things I did, I think I was adding to my layers of tools that I had that I could kind of lean on. So, I managed to, and then I'd have like 4 days a week or, 5 days a week where I wasn't drinking, and then there'd be 2 big ones. And, but I'd have things on those days that worked that stopped me from kind of doing that. But it wasn't really addressing the underlying problem, really, I suppose.
In this part, you're saying, you've spent quite a few years here in this place of not feeling like you're your best, feeling like you want to change, trying to make effort. That's a lot of cognitive load. That's a lot of thinking. And also, if you're trying to control and you fail at it, in quote, and you're like, it's filled with blame and shame and guilt and what's wrong with me and why can't I get this?
Yeah.
So you're going through absolutely. How many people are there right now?
So many. And don't, my advice to those people is it's that they're not very useful feelings. You need to, it's really try to not be so hard on yourself, because I was so hard on myself for so long, and I remember the first conversation that you and I had about complete control. You just said, you're not going to make any changes from a negative place. You've really got to come at this from a more positive angle. And I was like, you're the first person that's ever said that, and I was like, okay, this could be really cool. This could be the kind of the change that I'm looking for. And then at the end of 2019, business was looking really, really strong, right? And so my business is in events. And then come 2020, March 2020, everyone remembers what happened in March 2020. That's when the drinking really sort of kicked off. You know, it was like there was nowhere to drink, and I was drinking it way, way, way too much at home. And it was, you know, me and everyone else in the world, everyone that I've spoken to was, you know, kind of similar in that. And yeah, I remember hangovers going from feeling a bit nauseous and a little bit tired during this period to just like hangovers, waking up feeling really depressed and really anxious. And for anyone who knows me, that is the opposite of me. I'm a really positive, happy, you know, and I was like, this is ridiculous, you know, and I just didn't seem to be able to stop it. And then, you know, sort of end of COVID came at the end of 2021. And I was like, great, okay, now I'll be able to stop. But then I had so much kind of trauma carried with me throughout the COVID years, and these bad habits, and they just kind of followed me, you know. And I was like, oh my God, this is really bad. It's not getting any better. And, you know, thankfully, I sort of managed to start to put some of the tools back in place, and, you know, and it wasn't affecting my work as much. But then I was just this grumpy, less, you know, I wasn't the best version of myself, and I'm sure, you know, I certainly wasn't the best husband I could be or the best father I could be during this period. And it was pretty dark time, Rick. Like, it was, you know, it was pretty gnarly.
And I just want to go into there, Gav, because
sure,
I'm not surprised, right? You know, you run an events business and COVID happens and all of that is scrapped. I mean, you know, this is what we need to reflect back on, because I speak to people every day, and our team speak to people every day who are, you know, run businesses, run successful organizations, and whoever, but they come onto these calls and most of them mention the pandemic, and the pandemic decimated our relationships with alcohol, right? Because it became this place where, you know, you're on a screen like now, so it wasn't only the fact that you could sit in your boxer shorts and nobody would know, but you could also have a glass of wine under the camera and nobody would know, right? And so I thought you were actually about to reach for a glass of wine there. You yeah, like now.
What did that break from character,
cooling his nerves with a nice glass of wine.
Just a giant bottle of water, mate.
Oh yeah, it's only a quarter full. I need to sort that out. So yeah, and I think, you know, let's recognize this for everyone, for yourself, that this was a major, significant, traumatic event for society, for ourselves. And I think, you know, coming out of it in any kind of, you know, without expecting to come out of that without having significant step ups in our relationship with alcohol, with our patterns, with our coping mechanisms, these things like that. And we haven't been helped, right? People have just been left to their own devices to figure this out. There hasn't been any really big healing things. So I just wanted to, you know, say to you again, you know, this whole journey you've been on, right? The journey of trying to be better, of trying to make changes into here. And then when it really stepped up in COVID, you know, you had a choice, right? The choice is either to fall off the radar entirely or to do something about this. And, you know, kudos to you for really trying to do something about it. So, yeah, that must have been an incredibly stressful time, and you were using alcohol significantly. Is it sort of stepped up to a daily thing like that, or is it still?
Yes, it was. Yeah, I'd say, I think so. Yeah, you know, and I was just stressed out, and I'm like, when is this going to end? And, you know, and I just remember doom scrolling the whole time, just trying to find answers, and you know, and I couldn't find any answers, and then I'd get really angry with myself because I was drinking too much, and then I couldn't stop, and then, you know, and then I'd hear these hero stories of people stopped drinking during COVID, and I'm like, I can't do that. And, you know, and to be frank, I didn't really want to. It was like a real kind of self-soothing mechanism for me. And then, you know, as we came out of the back end of it, you know, I remember in 2022 just being so like, this is going to come back. This is going to come back again. It's going to hurt my business. It's going to hurt my family. If I lose my business, then I'm going to lose my house. And so all this kind of really kind of, you know, spiraling negative self-talk that sort of went. And I thankfully started working with a coach, an amazing woman at the start of 2022. And our focus was very much on helping me to change my relationship with alcohol and become the best version of myself. And she's an incredible, she's a world champion martial artist. She's a cancer survivor. I have, so much time and respect for her. And we actually named my drinking, the drinking part of me, Andre. And Andre could become like a two-headed fire-breathing dragon, or could be, under control and sort of put away. So we were working sort of towards having Andre like a house pet rather than like a two-headed ravaging fire-breathing lizard. And and we worked on that. We worked on it, and we managed to kind of get a number of sort of more sort of tools in place, and really started to double down on things like meditation and training and that sort of thing. But it would still come up, weeks were great, weekends not so much, and that's just sort of kept on coming. And I was like, right, 2023, that's the year for me. 23 was like a line in the sand. I was like, I need to do something significant this year, because I'm worried that I'm not going to make it past 50, because I had an uncle who passed. He had an aneurysm. He was a heavy drinker. There's some other drinking history in my family. I had an uncle who died from, who got cirrhosis of the liver and then died of pancreatic cancer. So for me, this shit was real, man, and I was like, okay, I gotta stop this, because for me, drinking seemed contrary. The way I was drinking seemed very contrary to the rest of the way that I was living my life. I was training 3-4 times a week. I was eating really well. I was meditating, and then I did this thing, and I'm like, it's totally not right. Was it gelling? But yet still, I didn't feel like I could stop once I had started.
Yes, yeah.
Like, and that whole thing, like, I'm sure you've heard of lots of people saying, "Oh, I just have one or two," and then one or two, as we know, it stops your prefrontal cortex once you get past that two, especially if two's that big, right? And you just stop making proper decisions, and you just roll back onto that train because you're chasing that dopamine hit, right?
Yeah.
And so, and then it sort of came to the start of 23, and me and my coach said, right, Gav, you need to lose some weight. I did. I needed to lose, probably about 10 kilos. And let's have 90 days where we eat right, train right, don't drink. I did a meal plan for 2 weeks, 2 blocks of 6 weeks, lost a bunch of weight, and then stopped drinking. You would never believe what happened at the end of 90 days, where came back again. Drink. So there's Andre, two-headed fire-breathing dragon, right? And I'm like, man, again. I'm like, God, I'm so tired of this roundabout. I'm so tired of being on this. It's not fun anymore. It's just not fun anymore. And I just didn't feel like I had the power to kind of stop it permanently. And so
there's, again, that piece there, Gav, is there are so many people in that loop, taking years and years and years and years of doing a bit of dry Jan, doing a bit of sober October, trying to, and trying lots of things. I mean, you've said you've worked with coaches, you had different meal plans, you've tried all of these things, and yet this thing just kept coming back and kept coming back and kept coming back. And I think there's an awful lot of people stuck in that place right now. And this is why I can't wait to share more about your experience on Complete Control, so that we can help people see how different it is. But talking about that, I mean, obviously in each of these times, did you feel like you were progressing? Did you feel like you were making step forward, or did you feel like you kept going back to step one again?
It was weird. It was like a step forward and a step back at the same time. It was like I was putting together a puzzle, right? Like I had a lot of the pieces of the puzzle worked out. So like, I would have days where I would absolutely meditate, absolutely train on those days. And then those days were easy. I like drinking wasn't really a part of that habit. Like the habit loops for those days were really set. But then it would come to, say, Friday night, and, I was drinking more than ever. And so I would miss training on Saturday, and, I'd miss meditation on Saturday. And so in some ways I was getting better, but in some ways I was getting worse, which made it even more frustrating because, I consider myself an intelligent person, and I wasn't able to intellectualize my way out of this problem. I was trying to think around it, but I couldn't get the last pieces of the puzzle together. I just I didn't have the tools. You know, I didn't have the tools, but I kept on trying. That was the key for me. It's like, you know, like I'm reading a book at the moment called "The Obstacle Is the Way," right? And you just got to keep finding a way around it. You just got to keep, you know. And so I was determined that 2023 I would make some significant changes, because, like, I was thinking, I don't want to be that fat red dude sitting in the corner, you know, who's feeling miserable for himself. Like, I've got an amazing life, and I'm really, really blessed and fortunate, great family and friends. And I was like, I'm not going to let this thing like hold me back anymore. So what do I need to do?
Yeah.
It's incredible. Like, I remember, because I was on your mailing list from when I'd done the challenges before, and I got your emails, and like, I was reading them going, oh my gosh, this might be it. This might be the thing that, you know, that I've been looking for, that can finally sort of get Andre in his box. So I had that first bit in, you know, in 2023, I was determined to make a change. And so me and my coach, we sort of worked through, and I had the first 90 days of the year off of alcohol. And then lo and behold, I got back into it. And then I started to get the emails from you guys, because I was on the mailing list from when I did the challenges before. And I was like, this complete control thing, it sounds really intriguing, you know? And I was like, I need to find out more. So I jumped on the website. And it's funny, we're talking about the whole guilt and shame and that kind of stuff before. I'm like, do I really need to do an 8-week program just focusing on, you know, on how I can change my relationship with alcohol? And it was like, and I'm amazingly fortunate to be involved in a men's circle that I do every other Tuesday. One of the other things I did was an 8-week meditation and mindfulness course, and off the back of that fell this men's group, and we catch up every other Tuesday. And I was talking to the guys, and I was saying, like, I'm thinking about doing this course. It's an investment in time. It's an investment in money. Should I do it? And they're like, Gav, like 100% do it. You know, we've been with you on this journey from like April last year. You know, just do it. And I'm like, okay. And then I spoke to my coach, and she's like, please, Chang, do it. I will, of course, Ruth. And then, well, you can thank my wife later. And then I said to my wife, I'm like, what do you think? Should I do it? And she said, absolutely. You have my backing. And I'm like, all right, let's do it. So I spoke to you, and it was, you know, probably the easiest chat you've had with someone. And I was like, yeah, all right, let's do it. So, and I tell you what, buddy, it was one of the best decisions I've made, I think. You know, it has complete, I am calm and in control, you know, and it's the first time I've ever felt like I'm in control, you know. I am in control of this thing that I had been trying so hard to get under control for over a decade now. And it's nice because I can talk about it without crying now, but you know, it was huge. It was huge for me. It was, yeah. I'm really, really pleased that I jumped on board and I did it.
Well done. I mean, thank you, and I'm so glad you did. So let's talk in a bit more about the experience. So you know, obviously hopped onto this call, chat about the team. What was it like in going into the program? Tell us a bit about the early stage of complete control.
It was interesting. It was the first time I've done any kind of, I'm going to call it, professional study since I went to university, which was 24 years ago. And it was a little bit scary, but really exciting, you know. And as soon as I got on the call, I'm like, oh my gosh, these people are like me, you know. They're people with energy. I can tell they're clever. They're all successful, you know. And it was like a cohort of like-minded individuals that have a similar kind of struggle to me. And instantly I thought, oh my gosh, I don't feel like such a freak anymore. You know, I feel like I'm cool. I'm all right. This is cool. There are other people, you know, like me, and there are a few of them like I bonded with like instantly. But I love like the fact that it was a really well structured program with the right amount of work. So you definitely felt like you were learning and progressing throughout. And I also really like the fact that, it wasn't just about changing your relationship with alcohol. If anything, it was about changing your relationship with you. And that was what I needed to change. And nobody was able to tell me what I needed to change, like week one, awareness. I learned stuff about myself. I had never really studied myself, but I learned stuff about myself where I just had so many aha moments. I'm like, oh, that's my personality type. Oh, that's why I like having people and drinking with them. And that's why we have to sort of, do that thing. And I have to make sure that their drinks are full, but my drinks are full all the time. All that kind of stuff. Oh, that's why I'm so impulsive. I was a 74 on the impulsiveness scale. And I'm like, that's why I make decisions really quickly, which is great in a lot of areas of life. Like it's great when you run a business and you have to be able to make decisions quickly, but it's not so great when you're at a bar doing shots of tequila at 3 o'clock in the morning, like that, they're not the best kind of impulsive decisions to be making, So I think that the early part of the course were really interesting. And I think one of my favorite things from the course still lives here on my finger. So this is my Oura ring. And I loved the technology side of things. Like I loved having data that was proving the changes that I was making were having the correct impact that I wanted to on my body. I remember going from drinking that first couple of weeks to not drinking, and my sleep scores going from like 60s to 80s.
Yeah.
And the thing with alcohol is that we've been lied to for our whole lives about what it does. It is the worst form of stress relief there is. It's
the worst.
It's terrible. And that for me was the biggest aha moment from the entire course. I remember I was working with one of the coaches one day and I was saying, this is the pattern where I drink. I said, I might have a couple of drinks on a Thursday night. Then come Friday, I feel like I have to get drunk. There's a compulsion there. And come Saturday, it's the same. It's not drink, I have to get drunk, right? So Friday night, Saturday night, I have to get drunk. So Sunday night, I'll have a couple of drinks. But those 2 nights, like binge drinking was like, it was just part of my vibe. And she goes, Gav, this is what's been happening to you for years. And I've had this conversation with so many business owners, entrepreneurs, executives. Stress goes like this across the week. It goes up, 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 up. You need to do something to stop that stress from happening. You need to self-soothe. And I just went, why didn't anyone ever tell me this? Like why? And I could see it. I could see back years, Rude, like big event, like what happens when you run a big event, finish the event, you get wankered.
Yeah.
And then why do you do that? Because you've been so bloody stressed out and you've got to do something. And so
not deals like, no, it's always you've been bloody stressed out, but you haven't done anything about the stress. You've just let it continue. And so we're reactive to our stress rather than proactive and there to mitigate it and using tools and techniques to calm our central nervous system. And I think, that's the big other compelling part, right? The first beat device to show people very clearly like that impact on their central nervous system and the states that we're getting ourselves into. And then you're like, so now do you see why you're drinking? Now is it obvious to you about what that is? So yeah, I'm glad you had that experience.
Yeah, Tony Robbins didn't say anything about that during his course, funnily enough, and nor did the psychologist or the psychotherapist or any of the books I was reading. Nothing had that in it. And I was like, what a simple, thing. And I'd actually been meditating on and off for 10 years, but I'd always used meditation as more of a Band-Aid rather than a preventative solution. And so since the course started, I've meditated every single day since, and that has had a profound impact on my life. I haven't skipped a beat for 125 days, and at least once a day, usually twice a day. And if I feel really stressed out, it's that breath is now my go-to. It's like. I've also I've added a few other cool things in there. So I do sauna and ice bath is my other thing, and that is like it's like you get a buzz. It's like a buzz from getting drunk, but with none of the downsides.
Yeah.
Like, and you just feel terrific, you know, after, and you sleep like a champ, and, you know, there's a lot of cool things. But yeah, I think, yeah, for me, the tech stuff was brilliant. Like, I loved the whole first beat thing, and then having Glenn talk us through, like, here's what I've observed over what's been happening with you. And then, you know, and for me, like, I'm a brewer obsessive now. I have to look at it every single morning when I wake up. Ooh, how did I sleep last night? I got a 91 last night.
Good man, good man. Let's pause just for a brief moment. I just want to share with you some of the heartfelt feedback from our incredible Complete Control community members. Listen to this.
I don't know how I signed up. I think I just got an ad on Instagram and just got a whim, just hit the button and did a call and then signed up and didn't really consciously think much about it. And then after that, I was like, what did I just sign up for? Wait a second here. Like, far exceeded my expectations. I'm usually extremely skeptical, so I don't know how I even signed up in the first place, but whatever it was. So it's just amazing how, like, the transformation that I've seen, and even the drinking part is just kind of the it was the Achilles heel, but it's kind of just the superficial problem. And it's like, once I kind of clear that up, there's so much more possibility. And you know, the exploration discussions with Gary, with Candace have just been so powerful, and kind of, they both kind of focus on a different area. And then with Glenn kind of looking at my data, and with my cohorts or classmates, or, you know, it's just been, everything has just been so powerful and kind of supportive of, you know, completing the whole picture of how I do this. So just really grateful, and yeah. And also just feel more grateful, and not only just for all of you, but just in life in general. It's just a little bit more clarity and peace and calm and so forth. So
I am incredibly grateful for this entire program, everybody on this call, and everything that we were able to experience. I think that it delivered more than I expected. Honestly, I like I've said before, I've done a couple of, like, challenges and different things. And I think that this, beyond examining my relationship with alcohol and making, I think, pretty good strides in staying alcohol free. I think it taught me a ton about myself and how to, like, examine my habits and my thoughts and those kind of patterns and ways to approach the things that worried me the most in this experience have just been invaluable. I think I'm leaving feeling stronger in general, more self-aware in general, and just really more anchored in who I want to be and what my values are, and how I can, you know, take better steps to achieve those. So it's been fantastic for me. And then again, our team, I really appreciate all the feedback and support from every single person on this call, but my cohort as well. It's been great.
So I love everybody that I've met here. I have loved the program. I am not an emotional person like this, but this has changed my life. It has given me a life. And there's other things I need to do too. But I don't have to do with alcohol anymore. So thank you.
It's been an amazing journey, and I appreciate the professionalism. Whenever I feel the stress, there's something that I can go back to everybody, and the sharing from everybody, and the professionalism of the program. So I loved it, and I've grown a lot. So, lots and kisses.
One word is transformational. That's a word that's been bandied about for decades, but in this, it is absolutely accurate. If I was to use one word, this was a great investment. It's not self-help, it's self-realization. It's super powerful, but it exceeded my expectations. Or maybe it was Sharon who said that, or maybe I'm exceeding my expectations, and I like that.
I mean, the program has been I'm hugely grateful for the program. I think the journey for myself has been amazing. I mean, I remember telling, I don't know if it was Candace or Gary, the first 3 or 4 weeks of the program, I was like, I can't stop thinking about not drinking. It's in my head. Every day I'm thinking about not drinking. And it's like now I'm not even thinking about it. It's just like my life has sort of stepped on. I'm excited about the future. Things are looking good.
I just love sharing the things people are saying about our complete control program. Okay, let's get back into the episode. And so going through this program, I loved what you said about instantly coming in and finding a group of like-minded people. And again, that's such a powerful part of it. Really we're trying to design it so you come into the room and there's a group of people who you either respect or admire, right? They're business owners, high achievers, are people out there doing great things. And I think it makes the conversation very different. So, and what about, so we spoke a bit about awareness, and then, there was into the heavy week, the following week after that, where we start talking about our past experiences. Was there much insight there for you? You don't need to go into great detail, but yeah, did you find nuggets there where perhaps, again, through psychotherapy, through traditional therapy, through things like that, you probably hadn't come across before?
There were a few for sure. I think for me, I was a bit lucky because I cleared some of that stuff earlier through doing the psychotherapy and that sort of thing. But there were certainly some things that that hadn't really cleared. But that, to be honest, like all that stuff feels clear now. Like I feel unchained, if you will.
Amazing. And so going through this journey, so what do you think is the main differences having come through this journey as opposed to what you've been doing before, and where are you now?
Sure. So today is 105 days alcohol free for me, which is a personal best. So I'm very pleased with that. But it's funny, I actually don't look at it like the way I used to look at it before. It wasn't like get to day 100 and then go, yeah, booyah, let's have a party. It was more like, okay, cool, I feel amazing. Let's keep going, and then sort of, the silly season's coming up. I'm like, yeah, I could drink if I want to, but it's not like I like the fact that it's not saying you don't have to do something, that has brought, like, certainly been periods where, going out for drinks and that sort of thing, or going out to a beautiful meal and having some wine and that sort of thing. Like that's really nice, The stress drinking was awful and really damaging to my health, and I will never go back down that road again. Like that door is closed, locked, bolted, and Andre's, hidden in the backyard now, right? So, and
Andre, the guinea pig.
Yes. So Andre's gone. I love the fact that if I choose to, I can have a glass of wine if I choose to, but it's a choice now. Like one of the big things that I take out as a post-it note on my desk, which says alcohol-free is now my default position. And it takes bravery to have that position because it is completely contrary to the way that most Anglo-Saxon countries live, right? We spend $6 billion a year advertising alcohol. So try and avoid those messages. It's impossible, right? And particularly there's this social conditioning piece as well. How do you celebrate? How do you mourn? How do you, you've just, got a big deal at work. Great, go buy the most expensive bottle of wine and drink it by yourselves at home.
Yeah.
I think for me, I discovered that although, you can buy whatever you want, but the cost is way too high. So it's not about the money anymore. And it's funny coming from like not having any money when we first started the business to, having a degree of success and being able to get whatever I want. But now I'm like, it's the furthest thing from my mind when I want to celebrate, and I love the fact that has shifted, and it really does feel like it's shifted, and that's super exciting.
What do you think is
super exciting?
I mean, we have guests on the podcast who say, I'm 105 days alcohol free. And I think the skeptics might be like, oh, well, you're feeling good now, but how do you know you have this control? But again, and I hear the words, what you've just said is, you're like, well, no, I know it. So I just know it's different. So I guess maybe, what is it that makes you know that it's different? How do you know that you have this place. And in a way, thinking of the encouragement to others, right? Because people are often listening to this podcast, people don't want to be alcohol free. I'll say that just carefully, is that, this is really why it's called complete control, because what people want is they want to be able to control their drinking. And they try and say, oh, maybe I never can, and I'll have to be alcohol free or something like that. So I guess, for somebody listening, is what makes you certain, or what makes you so sure that you have this place now of control?
I think two things. I kind of had my final hurdle the weekend just passed. I went to a wedding, which had beautiful wine and champagne and cocktails and a whole kit and caboodle, and I just wasn't interested because I had other things that I wanted to show up for on Sunday, and that to me is like free booze all night. Yeah, let's go. But that just didn't happen, right? And the other thing that's changed for me is the purpose behind drinking, right? So for me, I was drinking because I was stressed. Stress will always be there. It's just a part of life, that's just, but it's managed now. And I won't go, I've had a really stressful day. I just won't walk down that path and go, I've had a really stressful day. Let's go to the bottle shop and get some booze and like obliterate, Yeah. I just won't.
Yeah.
Because I've decided not to do that. I've decided I want more for me, my family, my loved ones, and once you realize that you're not giving up something, that you're gaining something, it's like a paradigm shift, right? It's a completely different dynamic to the I'm losing something.
Exactly.
I'm losing something by not having this trying. How much am I gaining
onto it? Yeah, exactly.
How much am I gaining?
In that as well is like, it's a mindset shift that happens during the process that puts you into the place where the majority of that cognitive load is eliminated, because you've got more attuned to yourself, like what you really want. And we've removed a lot of the bullshit marketing, the bullshit stuff that you've been preconditioned with your whole life, and helped you realize that actually most of this is just nonsense inside your head. And what you really want is this over here. And so that means it's not this desperately holding on to alcohol free. It's not desperately trying to control. It's not any of those things. It's just not cognitive load. And I think that's the most powerful thing we're trying to do here. So, I love what you said. Stress drinking, that element has disappeared for good for you. So that's amazing. What would you say to somebody thinking about coming to do complete control?
I would say just go ahead and do it. You've got so much more to gain from getting a handle on this than you do to lose. Once you change that mindset of I'm losing something to how much can I gain, you will go like you'll notice that shift within yourself and go, man, I'm glad I did this. Like you'll finish that course and go, boy, I'm so pleased. And once other people start to notice, you walk into the room and go, man, they've changed. There's something different about that person, but it's because how you feel about yourself. Once you kind of, it's a tricky one, right? Alcohol is very, because it is such an heavily ingrained part of what we do. There's so much fear associated with changing something that you feel like you hold very dearly to you, But once you realize that it's not your friend, it doesn't have your best interest at heart, and then complete control can give you what you've been looking for, because you've found this podcast for a reason, right? I think taking that next step in the journey is really important, and you have to. It's not like going to Alcoholics Anonymous. It's not like saying I'm an alcoholic, therefore I will never drink again, right? It's different. It's saying I'm changing my relationship with alcohol because I am in control. So if I choose to drink again at some point, it's on my terms.
Yeah.
And I think that's the difference. that's the difference.
What haven't I asked you that you want to say? Is there anything else you'd like to add into your experience or the outcome? Or
I think it's an absolute travesty that we haven't been taught in other ways to manage our stress more effectively, because I think that for a lot of people, like, there's just this underlying stress of living in the modern world with, you know, with social media and with financial pressures and that type of stuff. And, you know, I think, like, learning to manage your stress, like, I think meditation is one of the best things that, if not the best, like, to me, it's as important as brushing my teeth.
yeah,
You know, because it's like that mental hygiene, and, you know, it's something that I really think they should be teaching in school, and it should be part of every school day for every kid of every level, because, you know, life's getting more stressful, not less. You know, and I think, I think if you're sort of sitting on the fence about, you know, whether it's one of the challenges, the 90 days, the 90-day challenge, or a 30-day challenge, if that seems like too much, or complete control, just go ahead, just do it. You will not regret it. Like, you will not regret being in control, being a better version of yourself. You know, like, I've dropped 10 kilos, skin's best it's ever been. I feel amazing, absolutely bossing it at work. You know, it's funny. It's like one of those things where you say, oh, I wish I had have done it 10 years ago. And I'm like, well, this was when it was supposed to be, you know, like, I had to do all this pre-training before I could do the, you know, the complete control mini Olympics of self-love. That sounds very funny, but you know what I mean?
Amazing. Yeah, good for you and well done. And, you know, you're a guy who's choosing not to drink in the events business, or more importantly, choosing to, you know, control or get to a place of control in the events business. I think there's a lot of people out there in that industry who would say, oh, you just can't do that. It's just so thick and part of the industry and everything else. But they say that about every industry when they come on the podcast. So yeah, you just mentioned that you're bossing it at work. Would you say it's given you some extra performance having come through this experience?
Yeah. It's funny. My coach goes, how many pro athletes do you reckon binge drink every weekend? None. Right. So, you know, if you're a pro business person, pro entrepreneur, pro executive, whatever, how do you think a performance de-enhancing drug is going to make you perform? Right. Like, you sleep better, you're less stressed, your heart rate's lower. How many metrics do you need to go off to just go, this doesn't do what it says on the tin?
The opposite,
you know, it does.
I hope one day it does have what it does on the tin. I hope it does say this is a depressant. It will cause you to feel anxious and depressed, possibly suicidal, and causes lots of cancer. Blah 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 blah. But we're working on labeling.
Yeah, well, mate, good luck with that. How much did we say they spent on advertising in 2023? $6 billion.
Yeah,
you know, so I think
it's a lot more than that. I think globally it's a lot more than that. Is that
really? They probably just spend that in Australia, mate. To be honest,
I think that's yeah. I think it's nearer $2 trillion globally by the alcohol industry. So,
whoa,
the stats wrong, but yeah,
mate. Anyway, it's a lot of money, which equals a lot of influence, you know, and I think it's really nice to see the younger generation coming through in Australia. And drinking's become less of a thing. And there's definitely becoming, you know, alcohol-free options. And like, if you are if you're in the events industry and you're trying not to drink, no one knows whether you've got vodka, lime and soda in your glass or just lime and soda.
Yeah.
You know, and those alcohol-free beers look exactly the same as the other ones as well. And no one cares after they've had 2 drinks what you're drinking. No one.
No, exactly. You've just got past it then. Nobody cares. Keep going. Yeah, it's amazing.
I did have one thought as well, actually, and that was when I have tried to have breaks from drinking alcohol in the past, how I've kind of started to get momentum. And the The thing I found was once I get through the first 2 weekends, it becomes way, way easier. Because for most people, drinking, there's a sport that happens on the weekends. So, if you can kind of find some other cool stuff that you like doing to replace it during those sort of first weekends, that's cool. If you're feeling brave, ice bath is incredible. Ice bath and sauna, it will just it'll scare your nervous system, and you will feel.
Bath is huge, absolutely
huge. Anything that can circuit break you, and stand-up comedy is gold as well.
Yeah.
Listen to something you find really, really funny. You'll get little surges of, I wouldn't mind a drink. They last for about 15 minutes. Surfing the urge, we call that in complete control. And, and then once you kind of get through those first 2 weekends, you go, hang on a sec, I can do this. It makes it much, much easier.
Exactly. Good tips. Thank you very much. Please forgive me, but I need to rectify my numbers. I don't know what a trillion is, but it's
it's a big number.
It's nearly. It's one. I can't even say this number. It is 1,900 billion. It doesn't go to a trillion at 1,900 because a trillion is a million billion, or is it a billion billion?
Oh, anyway, I'm no mathematician
either.
I'm good at talking.
but 1,900 billion market size. I don't think that's their marketing size, but yeah. Anyway, that's huge stats. It is
crazy, right?
Enormous global industry. Listen, Gab, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Thank you. I really hope that this encourages others to come and check out what we've got here. And I think the biggest thing for me, which drives me so much, is like what you're saying. There are so many people out there who are trying to stop, and they're getting caught in a loop. And great. I think many people do. They get to do a 28-day challenge, and then their relationship with alcohol's changed forever. And some people do a 90-day challenge, and their relationship with alcohol's changed forever. And then some people, do a little bit longer, and their relationship with alcohol's changed forever. But if you're in any way caught in a loop, or you feel like you've tried this and tried that and tried this, and it's taking now time, then that's the reason to come and check out Complete Control.
Yeah,
because there's other things going on to figure out.
Because that loop is absolutely exhausting,
expensive,
exhausting,
yeah, painful, emotional,
awful, horrible. Get off the loop.
Get off the loop. As I say to so many people, the loop is really choosing. When you say I'm going to go it on my own, or I try and do something, you're choosing to invest your time. You're choosing to try and figure it out yourself. I'm going to read some book. I'm going to try this. I'm going to try and figure it out myself. Well, whereas the idea here is that, this is what we consider the world's first program to help you understand with exact clarity what's causing it and trying to make those shifts. I don't know of another program that's integrating technology, using the tools that we're using and doing it anywhere near the way we are. But it costs money, right? But the idea there is you stop investing time. Now, which one of those two is finite? Is money finite for you, or is time finite? And that's the thing. You can choose which one you want to spend. So if you're sick of spending your time on this, then come and check out Complete Control. Gav, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. This is what everyone is looking at. They're listening to these stories like yours, and trying to decide whether to come on this journey. And, this one super powerful podcast I know is going to help a whole bunch of people go, do you know what, I'm going to go on that journey, and it will transform their lives. So, and you know what it's like, right? Your family's life, your relationship, it's had a big impact on all of your life.
All of it, and I haven't missed a training session, and, I've been feeling super healthy. Like, if you're just thinking about doing it, just stop thinking about doing it. I know I sound like a Nike ad, but just do it.
Just do it. Good man. Thanks for coming on the show, Gav.
Thanks, mate. Cheers.